We have a Rotary Club over in Moraga. It's a breakfast club that meets at noon. Because our members are kind of a lot older than other folks, I said to my wife the other day, do I really look 86? She says, no, but you used to. We've got some of those members in our club. One guy was telling me, well, give you an idea, our lunches are catered by Meals on Wheels. Gives you an idea of the age of our club. But, you know, one of the guys were telling me the other day, he said, my wife said, let's go upstairs and make love. He says, can't do both. And another guy was bragging a few weeks ago around the table and says, you know, that was the time I made love for 1 hour and 3 minutes. He says, when was that? He says, the night they turned the clocks back. So I don't know that people think that all Rotarians have to be old. I'm delighted to see some of these young folks in here today. I got phone messages older than a lot of you. And, in our club, you know, we have the insurance agent who always gives the calendars out at the end of the year. In our club, he only gives them 3 months at a time. So that gives you a little idea of just what Rotary is in my town. Well, I better say something before I'm finished. I was giving a speech the other night. We were driving home, and I turned to Mary Lane and I said, well, how did I do tonight? She said, well, you did pretty well, but you missed several good opportunities to sit down. And I probably missed a few of them already this morning. I want you to at least know something about Rotary, those of you who may be your first experience at a Rotary meeting. Some people often ask, why in the world do they call this organization Rotary? And it all goes back a long, long time ago. Rotary is a little over 100 years old. It was the first of all the service clubs. Kiwanis, Lions, Seroptimus, Optimus, other exchange club. They were all formed on the idea of Rotary, and Rotary was the first service club. But it didn't start out as a service club. It was a group of young men in Chicago that were all there, come off of the farm towns and everything, and they were trying to get more business. And so they got together one night, 4 of them, and says, you know, if you bought your stuff for me and had your family all deal with me, and I had my family buy their groceries from you, and you bought your suits from him, and you bought somebody, we'd all improve our business together. And out of that came this idea of a club, which would help each other in business. And then a short time later, well, as a matter of fact, that was then when we developed the word Rotary. Because they said, well, when we get together, well, next week we'll meet in your office. Then the next week we'll meet in your office. Then we'll meet over here. And so they rotated their meetings. And out of that idea came the idea that Rotary is a Rotary meeting of changing meetings, supporting each other in business. And then one day, one of the guys says, you know, if we could keep the women downtown Chicago longer, they would buy more. But they always have to go home. Why don't we put in a public restroom in downtown Chicago so the women wouldn't go home so soon? And so that's what they did. They built the first public restrooms in downtown Chicago. And they said, that's good. And then another member says, you know, the doctor that goes around in his horse and buggy to take care of our families and our kids, his horse is lame and he's not getting around like he used to. They said, well, let's buy him a new horse. And so this group of men bought a new horse for the doctor so he could go around. And out of this came the idea of an organization that is not just helping each other in business, although we represent all the businesses of a community, but the idea of doing things that would make your community better, doing things, and out of this came the idea that this was a service club, serving to make your community better, because when your community's better, it's a nicer place to raise your family, to grow in, to have business, and to do business. And out of that came the idea of what this organization was a service club. And so if you don't know anything else when you leave the meeting today, you'll at least know how in the world they got their name, because they rotated their meetings. On occasions such as this, I frequently ask people, when did you become a Rotarian? And they say, well, I joined Rotary in 1995, or someone will say, no, I've been a member of this club for 5 years. And I said, no, that wasn't the question I asked you. I didn't ask you, when did you join a Rotary club? I asked you, when did you become a Rotarian? You see, I've known people that have been Rotarians long before they ever joined a Rotary club. They just had a spirit of improving their community, doing things for others. And then I've known people that have been members of a Rotary club for years and have never quite became a Rotarian. Because a Rotarian is a person who really takes special pride in their community and in their business. And you can always count on them to do business. You say, who does that sells that product? You look them up because you like to deal with a person you know is going to be fair and honest. And the word they can be dependent upon. And so they'll always show up at Rotary functions. And our motto, service above self, is a lot more than just a plaque you hang on the wall. It's actually a way of life, of giving your time and energy to other people to make a better community, a better world. I have a friend, Skip Kreidler, was from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he used to tell a story about the Houston Rotary Club down in Texas. Now, the Houston Rotary Club used to be the largest Rotary Club in the whole world. They had over 800 members in that Rotary Club in Houston, and they had so many projects. They had a phone number that if anybody in the town had a problem that they needed some help, they could call this phone number, and the Rotarians would see if there was something that they could do to help. One day the club president called one of the members, Tom. He says, Tom, we've got an urgent call here. There's a single little mother down in the Spanish-speaking part of our town that has a sick little boy, and needs somebody to take the boy and check him in down at the county hospital. Tom says, "Hi, get off it. Don't you know I'm a busy guy? I've got a big office and everybody depends upon me here. I don't have time to take some kid down to the county hospital." And the president says, "Tom, we keep calling on you time and time again, but you're always too busy. I'll tell you, if you don't want to take on any projects to build our community, maybe I ought to spend the rest of the year just drumming you out of this club." Tom says, "Okay, nobody quite explained it that way before." Well, an hour later, Tom found himself down in a part of Houston he'd never been before. He went down the dirty streets, some old buildings, and finally found this old tenement house. He parked his car and trudged up 2 flights of stairs, a dark hallway with a little dim light. And he finally found the room number. He knocked on the door, and the door opened a little bit. And inside was a small Mexican woman with a small child in her arms. And through the open door, he could see over on the well-worn sofa a little boy laying there. He explained that he came to take the boy down to the county hospital. He went over, kind of got the boy up, and his sticker-fingered little kid, and he walks him down the steps and gets into his Cadillac and puts him about as far over on the far side of the passenger seat as he could, and he starts on his way down to the county hospital. He'd only gone a couple blocks when this brown-eyed little boy looked up and said, "Mister, are you God?" Tom says, "What do you mean, boy?" He says, "Mister, my mama was on her knees praying to God to help us, and you knocked on our door." Tom couldn't think any more about it as he drove on. He got to the county hospital, checked him in. The at the front desk, and they took him up up the elevator to the 3rd floor into a 4-bedded ward. 3 other little boys crying, sniffling in their beds, and Tom left him. But Tom didn't go right back. He got in his car and didn't go right back to that office where all these people were depending upon him. Tom went down the street a while and saw a toy store. He stopped and he went in and got 4 teddy bears and stuffed animals. And then he drove back to the hospital and went up those 3 flights of elevator, and took it into the 4-bedded room and turned the tears into smiles of the 4 boys laying on the beds. And then Tom went back and got in his car. But again, he didn't go right back to the office. He went down the street to a grocery store, and he went in and got 2 of the largest sacks of groceries he could imagine, and drove all the way back to that tenement house, walked up the 2 flights of stairs in that dimly lit hallway, and knocked on the door and gave his little mother the bread and the rice and the milk and the things that she needed. And finally, Tom went back to his office, and he picked up the phone, and he called the Rotary Club president. He said, "Mr. President, do you know how bad some people are in our community? We've got people who are hungry and sick, and nobody cares for them. It's about time our Rotary Club does something about it. Mr. President, you appoint a committee, but make me the chairman." So I asked, when was it? The day that you became a Rotarian? More than just a member of a club. Was there some event that you could look back and say, today, I think I became a Rotarian? Did you ever call the club president? Says, there's a job to do in our town, and I'm ready to go to it. I know many members become Rotarians the day that they discover that Rotary adds something special in their lives. Some people become Rotarians the day they volunteer to help work on, to help restore some of the community playgrounds. Others became Rotarians the day they took disabled youngsters to a day to the zoo, or perhaps taught them how to catch a fish. Some became Rotarians in the World Program of Rotary when they lift a person who's crawling on the ground from paralyzed by polio or stroke or birth defect, and set him into a Rotary wheelchair donated by Rotarians. Does anything happen to you to say, I think I became a Rotarian? I can tell you, as I traveled the world through so many dozens and dozens of countries, what a rare experience it is to pass out food to somebody who's starving. Did you ever see anyone starving? You know tomorrow they won't be alive, but they're starving today. And you can give them something, some water or food. Did you ever pass out to a child a pair of shoes, to a child who's never owned a pair of shoes? Amazing. Or perhaps even mundane things like worm pills to a child that needs them. It's an amazing sight to see a blind person who has restored the gift of sight because a Rotarian provided cataract surgery. Perhaps one of the most touching experiences of Rotarians is the way in which Rotarians have given 2 drops of polio vaccine to children around the world. When we started a program nearly 25 years ago called Polio Plus, at that time Rotary decided what this horrible disease needed to be eradicated. Polio 25 years ago could be found in 125 nations of the world epidemic. There was about 500,000 cases of polio in the world every year. And then Rotary's decided, let's do something about it. And so we started a program, and what an experience it is to volunteer on a national day of immunization someplace in the world, where mothers will bring their children, and you're standing there, perhaps in a little jacket that shows you're a Rotarian, and a mother who knows you as an absolute stranger will hand over their child so that you can put 2 drops of polio vaccine. I said we had 500,000 cases when we started. We now have Rotary, or we now have polio in only 3 countries of the world. And over 99% of all the children of the world have been immunized for polio. And last year, we did not have 500,000 cases. We had less than 1,000 cases in the entire world. And that's the magic of what a worldwide organization like Rotary can do. I recall so many experiences as I've traveled around the world. I recall a day when I was in Nigeria, and it was a little village, just grass huts and everything. The Rotarians were showing me a project. They had put a water pump, just a pump, you pump water out of the ground, in a little middle of a community, or a little village, where the women for generations had carried water on their shoulders for nearly a mile from a polluted stream. And all of a sudden, they have a pump where they get fresh water right in their little village. And they had a little ceremony. They were putting a rotary wheel on the pump or something. And we always had, Rotary dedicates everything, put a rotary wheel on it. That's a dedication. I remember down in Mexico, just a couple of years ago, I was down there dedicating a project. The Rotarians have put up indoor plumbing in a school that had just outhouses. It was the first time I put the rotary wheel on a urinal. But on this occasion, in Africa, on this occasion, we were dedicating the pump. And while we were having this little few-minute ceremony, a woman was sitting on a rock over here, and she was saying something. And I asked the translator, what is she saying to me? And he says, when Rotary gave us the pump, our children stopped dying. You never know what you can do in a worldwide organization. I'll tell you a story that started in our community. I lived in Stockton for many years. I spent about 45 years of my life on a college campus, not trying to graduate. They paid me to stay there at Berkeley and at the University of Pacific up in Stockton. And we had maybe it was 25 years ago, a young lady came on an ambassadorial scholarship from India. Oh, she was a charming young lady, and she was enjoyed. She met every Rotarian. She visited every Rotary club in the area. She got every free meal she could get, and but she knew everybody on the campus. Everybody knew Lalita Pretep because she wore saris around the campus and was just such a charming young lady. And towards the end of the year, a Rotarian says, have you talked to Lalita lately? I says, not lately, but she's been to our home, and I've known her over this year that she spent here. She was in the program studying handicapped children problems of speech, hearing, and language problems, and problems of handicapped youngsters. And but they said, you know, Lalita's trying to find somebody who will sponsor them so that they can stay in the United States. And she's looking for a sponsor. I said, well, I'll talk to her. So I made an appointment, and Lalita came to my office, and she says, oh, I'm so pleased that you're going to help me stay in the United States. I said, Lalita, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to want to hear. No, I'm not going to help you stay in the United States, nor will I suggest anyone else. Because the Rotarians in India gave you this rare experience to be an international student and come to the United States for a year's study. and I'm glad you had a wonderful time. But now it's the time for you to go back, for you to help the people of India. Well, this poor little girl, the tears came pouring down her face. She says, I thought you would help me. I says, no, Lalita, you help the people of India. Well, that would be, she went home, they had a couple of children, she went to work, and that would be the end of the story, except just a few years ago, Mary Elaine and I were over in Bangalore, India. This day we were dedicating a wing of a hospital. It was a heart pacer program, and then it also had a large program for children with heart problems. And just before the ceremony, they do things big in India. Lots of flowers all over and banners, and there were 300 or 400 Rotarians gathered, and they had a big plaque on the wall that we were going to unveil as we dedicated this new wing of the hospital. And the district governor says, well, just before the meeting, he says, before we start the program, I want you to come over here and meet the administrator of the hospital. And I walked over, and sure enough, it was Lalita Pratap, the administrator of this hospital. And we sat and talked a while, and she recalled that day, which would have been 25 years earlier. And she said, thank you. Thank you for what you did for me that day to have me come back to India. And she had a little model of the Taj Mahal all wrapped up with a ribbon and put it in my hands. And she says, wherever you go, tell Rotarians how much the Rotary Foundation Scholarship Program means to me. You see, Lalita had become the leading educator for handicapped youngsters in that whole segment of the nation of India. And it had become possible because of the experiences that she had. You see, the activities of Rotary in your local club or in the World Organization, where we touch nearly 200 countries, are members of Rotary with over 34,000 communities, just like this club. They meet and work together in their own way. And the work of Rotary is kind of like a pebble that you drop in the water, just like this Rotary Foundation drawing you had here. The money goes. You give the money, but it's like the drop in the water, and the ripples go on and on and on, and you never know where they'll really touch. Just like Lalita, we never know the people that she has touched because of the experiences she had with Rotary. Well, I think I've talked about as long as it seems. So let me close on just a little personal note. As the worldwide president of Rotary International, as Susan said, the theme I selected was real happiness is helping others. Because I truly believe that when you do something for others, something important comes back into your own life. There are people right here in your community that need Rotary Club. May not, in this affluent community, you may not realize there are people that are hungry, people that are hurting, people that are cold, people that are friendless, who live without one hope that a better day lies ahead. But when Rotarians of your club reach out and touch their lives, the lives of children, the lives of the seniors, the lives of people that you may never meet or ever see, their lives are so much better. In my message of real happiness is helping others, I used to quote an old Chinese proverb. I just don't know why Chinese are so smart. You know, they just sit around thinking up proverbs, don't they? There's an old Chinese proverb they tell me that goes like this. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a week, take a vacation. If you want happiness for a month, get married. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness all your life, it only comes by helping others. So my message to all Rotarians and those who might consider being part of this great world fellowship, if you want to be a real Rotarian, do things right here in your own community. Do something every day. A random act of kindness. Call somebody. Read to children. Help somebody do a task. Reach out. Reach out and then reach around the world. And makes your neighborhood around the world. If you can bring happiness, you can improve the lives of people. You'll never regret that experience. I assure you, when you reach out and do these just random acts of kindness or work with your fellow Rotarians on a special community project, it will be a special day in your life. And that will be the day that you can end the day in saying, you know, I think today I became a Rotarian. For what you're doing, God bless you all. Thank you.